first Democrat debate, there was a lot of folks that had expressed support for the Equal Rights Amendment, including Kamala Harris and her takedown of Joe Biden for preventing her from going to school. Joe Biden tried to stop Kamala Harris from going to school because Joe Biden was opposed to integration by busing. He wasn't going to help with the busing. He wasn't going to help with integration. He acts like he's for civil rights. He was not. He was opposed to busing, and he prevented lots of black kids from going to school. So the Equal Rights Amendment is a proposed amendment to the U.S. Constitution designed to guarantee equal legal rights for all American citizens regardless of sex. It's obviously good. It's obviously right. You shouldn't discriminate people because of sex. It seeks to end the legal distinctions between men and women in terms of divorce, property, employment, and other matters. The ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, was originally written by Alice Paul and Crystal Eastman and first introduced in Congress in December 1923. It's been nearly 100 years since it was first introduced, and we can't seem to pass a constitutional amendment to say that men and women are political equals, okay? So, does that mean we're allowed to discriminate? Apparently, because, so anyways, let me talk to you about the history of this thing, okay? So, you had Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she summarized her support for the ERA in the American Bar Association Journal in 1973. She said this: "The Equal Rights Amendment, in sum, would dedicate the nation to a new view of the rights and responsibilities of men and women. It firmly rejects sharp legislative lines between the sexes as constitutionally tolerable. Instead, it looks toward a legal system in which each person will be judged on the basis of individual merit and not on the basis of an unalterable trait of birth that bears no necessary relationship to need or ability." In the early history of the Equal Rights Amendment, middle-class women were largely supportive, while those speaking for the working class were often opposed, pointed out that employed women needed special protections regarding working conditions and employment hours. With the rise of the women's movement in the United States during the 60s, the ERA gained increasing support. And after being reintroduced by U.S. Representative Martha Griffiths, a Democrat from Michigan, in 1971, it was approved by the U.S. House of Representatives on October 12th of that year, and on March 22nd, 1972, it was approved by the U.S. Senate, thus submitting the ERA to the state legislatures for ratification, as provided for in Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution. Congress had originally set a ratification deadline of March 22nd, 1979. So both Congress, right, both the House and the Senate passed this, says that if the states jump on board, then we're going to pass this. This is going to become an amendment as long as, 30-something, what do you need, 75% of the states? And the 35 of 38, so you need 38 state ratifications. 38 state ratifications would have got the amendment passed. But in 77, the amendment only had 35 of the necessary 38 state ratifications. This has wide bipartisan support. Both major political parties, both houses of Congress, President Nixon, President Ford, President Carter, they all supported it. And so it seemed destined for ratification until you had another group of women, the conservative women, that fought against it. So there's two ways I can interpret this. Either one, women are just listening to their husbands and they don't think for themselves, or two, the privilege of being a woman in America is just so wonderful and so great that the equality would actually take women down a notch. Equality? What do you mean equality? We have all these privileges. Why would you throw these privileges away? And so Phyllis Schlafly. So you had a lot of women that supported this, but it got, it was knocked down. It never passed. It only needed 3 more state ratifications, and it didn't pass. And so Phyllis Schlafly, she is the person, most people are going to point to her mobilization efforts as having effectively killed this thing. So what she did was she argued for traditional gender roles. We're going to have traditional gender roles if you pass Equal Rights Amendment. Well, they said a whole bunch of stuff. They said that it's going to disadvantage housewives. Housewives are going to be disadvantaged. Not really. None of these, I don't believe in any of these arguments. These arguments are freaking ridiculous, but it just shows that there's enough privilege there for traditional women's roles that, you know, again, I don't want to just, I bet you some of them are listening to their husbands, but I bet you some of them listen to this and they say, well, yeah, I don't want equal rights. What? Equal rights? We're privileged. We're on a pedestal. Equality will knock us down a peg. So they said that the employee or the Equal Rights Amendment would disadvantage housewives. It would cause women to be drafted into the military. This was probably the biggest argument that they had used. I mean, it was the Vietnam War, right? During the Vietnam era, you're going to sit there and pass the Equal Rights Amendment. So now women are going to be drafted. Now women are going to be drafted. Oh my God! Now they have a dog in the fight. Now they actually have a stake in the claim. So you're going to sit there and tell me. And so, okay, so subject to conscription. Women are going to be, they're going to be drafted into Vietnam. Typically, men fight the wars. Men fight and die in the wars. That's the way it's supposed to be. Women stays at home. Men goes and fights and dies at war. What's the problem here? We don't want to get, military combat roles. We don't want to be on the front lines. We don't want to be subject to the draft. So whereas folks mock Donald Trump for dodging the Vietnam War draft, and if it's just a pop shot, I don't really like the guy personally, but it's showing me what you believe. You're sitting there saying if you question any wars whatsoever, then you can never lead a military outfit because you question the war. You can't lead a military outfit. That's so freaking ridiculous. But people mock Donald Trump for dodging the Vietnam War draft. But every single American woman, every female in America has been dodging the draft since the existence of this country. They've been dodging the draft. So, Donald, he dodged the draft. Okay, all American women dodged the draft. And the employee, rights, or the Equal Rights Amendment, like I said, a lot of women supported it because it's obviously, you should not discriminate against people based upon sex. You should not discriminate, based upon sex. You shouldn't discriminate on anybody for blue eyes, for, red hair, for skin color, for religion. You shouldn't be discriminating. You shouldn't say, I'm not going to serve you. I'm not going to treat you the same as everybody else because you're a male, because you're a female. That's not politically. I mean, what's the difference? Politically, we have the same freedom of speech. Anyways, I could go on and on about this, but we'll stick with the Equal Rights Amendment and their arguments, right? So women are going to be drafted into the military. They're going to disadvantage the housewives. What about alimony? Oh, man, alimony. So I have learned as a man that if you get a wife, you can't just let her be a housewife because she could get alimony later on. They'll say that she has she has no skills. She was living in the house, so she doesn't have any skills to be able to get into the job market, so she needs to carry that lifestyle on even though the man isn't getting anything. So as a man, if you're going to date a woman, you got to make sure she has a job, so that way you don't get stuck with alimony. And if you agree with alimony, let's just reverse the roles, okay? So I find me a nice sugar mama. She's taken care of me for years, right? And so the deal was for, let's just say we were together for 10 years and then there was a divorce. So for 10 years, I'm taking care of the kids, I'm taking care of the house, and I make sure she's happy, right? I'm just being a nice, happy homemaker, make sure she's happy, make sure she's sexed up, right? So she's getting, all the same benefits that men would get from a housewife, only we're reversing the roles, because that's how you can tell if something's fair. So for 10 years, I got to live off the grid. I got to watch, raise my own children, which I think, as a man, I'm going to be, I'm going to have a job, so I'm not going to be able to raise children, so I'm not going to be able to engage in the joy of raising my own children. And then, the sex parts, too. So now we're divorced. I'm not taking care of the house. maybe the kids, are grown or there's some joint custody or something. So I'm not taking care of the kids exclusively, and, I'm not taking care of the house. I'm not doing anything for her, but you know what? I got used to sitting around, and I don't have any skills to go out into the job market, so you need to keep paying me this, alimony. You need to keep paying me a check, because that was the agreement. You're the one that, wanted me to be in the house, and so now I have no skills. I don't know what to do. I can't go out to the job market. So you need to pay me so I could just sit around. So alimony is such bullshit. So, maybe that's something. Oh my God, we're not going to get alimony anymore? We're going to get, conscripted into the, we're going to go fight in the military combat roles. We're going to be drafted into the military. Oh man, we're going to be treated like men? No. We don't want this. We don't want this. Phyllis Scamfly, she was like bringing bread and jam, and she was using the image of the housewife. She was saying that Congress is trying to jam up, the legislative halls, and so she used all this imagery for, we're protecting traditional gender roles, we're protecting the housewives, make sure alimony stays in effect, make sure we dodge the draft forever and ever. And let's see, more things, more arguments. Eliminate the tendency for mothers to obtain custody. Generally, women are the ones that win custody over their children in divorce cases. Not anymore. You get equal rights. Well, hell, the man might win the child. Now, if the man is, more capable, if the woman's a druggie or, a heroin junkie, it probably would make more sense to give it to the man. But no, we got to protect. She's got the vagina, so we need to make sure all women always get the kids. Many labor feminists, this is also shocking too, feminist and labor feminist, they oppose the ERA on the basis that it would eliminate protections for women in labor law. So in labor law, women were given, again, more privileges, specific protections being that they were women. And they were saying, well, if we get equality, then we're not going to get these special protections in labor law. Over time, more unions and labor feminist leaders eventually supported it, but in the beginning, so again, it's a lot of women supported it, but more women were opposed to it, and they were able to block it, and they were able to stop it. So they also made the argument that you're going to have unisex bathrooms. Oh my God. Oh my God. We're going to have unisex bathrooms. There's every household, not every household, most households have families. And so you're going to have, kids, and you're a man and a woman. So most bathrooms in houses are unisex bathrooms. Oh no. We're going to have public unisex bathrooms. We're going to have a man pooping next to us. And so, I can understand somewhat about the fear of rape with unisex bathrooms, but to make that we don't want equality because it might lead to unisex bathrooms. that is crazy. Religious conservatives, they said that if you pass the Equal Rights Act, you're going to get more abortions, and gay marriage is coming next. I don't even know how they made that connection whatsoever. That doesn't even seem logically consistent. So if men and women get equal political rights, then there's going to be more abortions? I mean, I thought you're protecting the fetus. The fetus is both, a female and male, right? So how does having equal rights do anything with abortions or gay marriage? And it also shows you that they've been using those things since the 70s. They've been using those as scare tactics since the 70s. If we have equal rights, between men and women, then men are going to get married. What do you mean? Oh, because they're going to have the same privileges that women have in marriage? I don't understand the abortion and gay marriage argument whatsoever. Opponents also argued that men and women were already equal enough with the passage of the Equal Pay Act of 1963 and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I'm in favor of the Equal Rights Amendment because we do need a constitutional amendment that just says specifically you can't discriminate on sex. You can't discriminate on religion, you can't discriminate on race, you can't discriminate on, a host of things, but we're not saying that you can't discriminate based on sex, based on gender. Now, the Equal Pay Act of 1963 is interesting. People want to say that, women make 75 cents on the dollar. I've heard that statistic, but I question it because I've never seen it. Every job I always had, the women were being paid the same as me, minimum wage. or, you know, they were in management. So I've never specifically seen it. I've never seen, you know, a person who said, all right, you mow this lawn, paid the man $50, and then told a woman, you go mow the lawn, and then paid her, you know, 75% of 50. So, which is what, 37.50? So, you know, just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean that it's not happening, but I just feel like the intersectionality, who's got more rights, who's got more privileges, women or men? There's women have privileges, men have privileges, so where it all intersections, who has got the higher, you know, it's not clear to me who's got, you know, more privileges than others. And so by passing an Equal Rights Amendment, that says that nobody's more privileged than anybody else. You can't discriminate based upon sex. And so, therefore, politically, you got the same freedom of speech, the right to religion, the right to petition, the right to peacefully assemble, right to bear arms. You got all the same freedoms and rights. You know, everybody's got the same freedoms and rights. The Constitution doesn't say it's just for women. It doesn't just say it's just for men. And so, the Equal Pay Act I thought was interesting because they passed an Equal Pay Act under Obama. They passed some Equal Pay Act under Colorado recently. So we've been passing that men and women have to make the same pay for the same work for quite some time. So it's illegal, the Equal Pay Act, since 1963. You can't, you know, pay women less since 1963. More women are going to college. So, you know, a lot of women are doing okay. And so, but, you know, I think that America is just so diverse that you're going to have pockets of men being oppressed, pockets of women being oppressed, and so it's not totally clear to me that, it doesn't look to me that there's a sweeping thing that says all women are crap, and it doesn't seem to me that says that all men are crap. So, you know, who's got the advantage? I'm not for sure. I'm not for sure. It's, you know, like I said, it'll take a longer and more in-depth conversation, but these are the arguments that was used against it, okay? So essentially either A, you can say that they, you know, the housewives don't have minds of their own, they just do whatever their husbands say. And I bet you know, there is some of that going on. But, you know, Phyllis Sclafly, this Sclafly character, she's, you know, not just free to do as she pleases, but she's traveling to the Capitol, she's making large speeches, so she's doing exactly what she wants to do. And so I guarantee that even though there probably are some women that are just, you know, going along with their husbands, there's a lot of women that, you know, say, what? I want my alimony. I don't want to go to war. I don't want to be drafted. I want to keep the privileges that I have. And that's in labor, right? They're saying specifically they want to keep the privileges in labor. They were saying that disadvantaged housewives. How would it disadvantage housewives? None of their arguments make any sense whatsoever. Last two arguments that they used was how women's colleges will have to admit men. Oh no, what about the female colleges? Now they're going to have to accept men into their ranks like the Boy Scouts are accepting the girls? We can't do this. We cannot do this. I think we can have all these things. I think we can, you know, make it fair for everybody. You can have exclusive Boy Scouts. You can have exclusive female colleges. You're not supposed to be, you know, you're not supposed to discriminate. So, but private colleges, I mean, what can you do with that? Maybe public colleges might be a little bit more difficult. But I think we can do all the things, you know. I like my manness, but, you know, when it comes to political rights, every person is born the same. We're all born equal. We're all born free with the same political rights. So it's just obvious to me that the Equal Rights Amendment should be passed. All of their fucking arguments is just such bullshit. It just shows you the things that people say to trigger other people. So, oh my God, they're coming after the housewives because they want equal rights for men and women. Housewives are going to be disadvantaged. How does that make sense? It's going to have unisex bathrooms. We're going to have unisex bathrooms. And you know what? Men's bathrooms are disgusting. They smoke, they destroy everything, so that's gross. You know, I think it would be good for men and women it'd be good for men to keep themselves clean. What the heck, you know, sitting there dirtying up the washrooms, and then the women's rooms smell nice, and they take care of it, it's nice and clean. So, by discriminating, it's, let the men get crap bathrooms and women get super duper bathrooms. And they say, well, it's the men's fault. And some men, fuck it up for everybody else. So, yeah, then what happened? Okay, so 35 of 38 of the states had ratified it, so we're only 3 states away, right? But there was a deadline, why would you pass a deadline? If you're trying to get a constitutional amendment, don't put a deadline on it, maybe a 100-year deadline. But 5 state legislatures, Ohio, no, my bad, Idaho, Kentucky, Nebraska, Tennessee, South Dakota, voted to revoke their ERA ratifications. 4 had claimed to have rescinded their ratification between the deadline, and South Dakota legislature did so by voting to sunset its ratification as of that original deadline. So we don't even know if that's a legal thing. Can you revoke a ratification for a constitutional amendment? But instead of getting those 3 required states that we needed, 5 states in the Union, Tennessee, Kentucky, thank you. You give us Mitch McConnell. You fucked up this whole nation. Thanks, Kentucky. You also stopped men and women from being equal. And then Idaho, Nebraska, South Carolina. So then instead of getting 3 more states, 5 states dropped out. In 1978, Congress passed by simple majorities in each house, and President Carter signed a joint resolution with the intent of extending the ratification deadline to 1982. Because no additional state legislatures ratified the Equal Rights Act between 79 and 82, the validity of that disputed extension was rendered academic. Since 1978, no attempts have been made in Congress to extend or remove the deadline. So that means the deadline holds up, and so that's when people talk about the employee, I keep saying the Employee Free Choice Act, but the Equal Rights Amendment, the ERA, the 45th anniversary of the ERA came up in 2017, and Nevada, the legislature became the first to ratify the ERA after the expiration of both deadlines with the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution number 2, designated as POM 15 by the U.S. Senate and published verbatim in the Congressional Record 2017. On pages S2361, S2362. The Illinois General Assembly ratified the Equal Rights Amendment on May 30th, 2018 with its adoption of Senate Joint Resolution Constitutional Amendment number 4. So there's a couple states that's sort of, jumping on this. The legislatures are jumping on, and they're ratifying these things. And so I think that's actually all you need. You don't need a popular vote. You just need the government, the state of that, and the governor to sign off on it. So we're almost there, right? So we needed 3. We went down 5, so now we needed 8. Now you got 2 more that's coming up. And yeah, so they're saying the middle-aged housewives, they have no job skills. They have to have and then Social Security somehow got into the arguments. You're not going to get Social Security now because Social Security only goes to women? What is, these arguments are so crazy. And if you're just, naive and you're sitting there listening to somebody and they're sitting there saying, you know what this Equal Rights Amendment is going to do? That's going to put us on the same level field as men, and we're going to have to compete with men, get jobs, go to the war. We're not going to get this nice, alimony check so we can keep on sitting around even though we're not being dutiful housewives anymore. Well, yeah, alimony, that really protects, traditional gender roles. So you can't get a wife and you can't have a family, but because you're paying for, her lifestyle. You got to pay for your lifestyle, pay for her lifestyle. And then I guess you get the custody, right? So you get all that child support money. My God, if women really angled themselves correctly, they could just pop out some kids, marry a rich man, get some alimony, and they'll never have to get a job, right? Oh my God, we'll have to get a job, we'll have to go out and work. No, we can't do this. So these are the arguments that they're afraid of, and even if, it's okay for them to be afraid of those arguments, how does Equal Rights Amendment, bring about these things? How does I can understand alimony and the draft. Yeah, probably. I mean, God, if women were involved in the draft, maybe women would be opposed to war. Maybe women would speak out against war. But since they never have to put their lives on the line, they will never, unless they volunteer, but they will never be asked to go to war because some rich man and some, bunch of fucking fascist assholes, some government people want you to go to war. So if women were forced to go into Vietnam, perhaps that would have stopped it. There is an argument that says we should bring the draft back because when rich kids and poor kids were looking at, going to war on an equal threshold, well, that scared the wealthy people. Well, hell, we want the poor kids to go out there and for them to get their heads blown off. We didn't want our kids to go out there. So the draft, some people say bring it back so you could have that reverse effect of, tying everybody together to have to fight the war, and then that would bring the opposition. I don't know. I hate doing things backwards like that. We're going to do this backwards thing so that way why don't we just end the fucking wars, stop the goddamn wars, and end the draft completely. If you have to draft people to fight a war, then that means the people don't believe that the war is necessary. If the war is necessary, the American people will stand up. We don't need the draft. The only way you need a draft is for the wealthy people to force people that don't want to go to war to go to war. That's the only point for the draft. Fuck the draft. So, what else? Is there any more? Oh no, unisex bathrooms. We're going to have to, piss and poop on the same toilet? Oh my God. And then the toilet seat, they might leave it down. We'll have to put it up. We'll leave it up. They'll leave it down. Nah, that's just too complicated. We cannot figure this out. No. So alimony and draft are the only two things that made any kind of argument. With equal rights, you could still be a housewife. You could get a job. You still got the choice of, taking someone else's life, right? If you don't like your life, then just take someone else's life, right? Just get a rich man to take care of you. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. No problem. That's what I'm going to tell my little boys. Hey, little boys, don't worry. You'll marry some rich woman. She'll take care of you. You'll be fine. Oh my God, if I'm reliant on rich women to take care of my sons, there's a poll that actually, or a study that came out that said now that women are making money, they don't share it. They don't get married and they don't have a house husband and they don't have a house husband to take care of the kids. They don't share it. It's mine. I got it. It's all mine. And it's, the majority, so it's not everybody, but still, I mean, that says something, right? So even when women don't have equal rights, they're doing okay. They're doing good enough to where they have enough, free time and resources to stand up and say, hey, no, we don't want equal rights. No. We have all these privileges. We are going to ruin this free ride we've been having. What are you all thinking? Freedom, political rights? What? God, this is just... Marilyn Monroe, she says she didn't mind living in a man's world as long as she got to be a woman in it. I wonder if it would work the opposite way. I wonder if it's like, I wouldn't mind living in a woman's world as long as I got to be a man in it. So, even when there is no equal rights, I would say, there's pockets, right? There's pockets. Some men, beat on women, but there's a lot of men out here that believe that hurting a woman takes something away from your manhood. So, there could have been, more domestic violence and rapes and a lot of bad things that happen for women, but women also, got to inherit the entire plantation. Right, George Washington's wife, she got all those slaves, and she wanted to keep Washington's slaves, George's slaves, even though he had freed them. So, even when there wasn't equal rights, women could do, good for themselves. And then men were being drafted into those wars, and they, 95% of all the deaths are men. So, the only two arguments that they made that actually holds any water, the abortion rights, homosexual marriage, I mean, maybe you're saying, that it's a liberal idea? Liberals want equality between the sexes. I want an equality of conditions. I want equal opportunity. I don't want equality in terms of everything is the exact same. I mean, she's not going to be able to lift as much as I have, and that's actually why she gets all the privileges, right? Because I can lift more things. So, because I'm physically stronger, and that seems to me that's the only difference. That's the only difference. They got more estrogen than us, but we got estrogen, and we have more testosterone than them, but they get testosterone too. We think the same intelligence-wise, And, you know, the women are capable of doing manual labor. I could pick up a little bit more stuff, but she could pick stuff up too. So they're very capable even in physical labor. But aside from physical labor, they could do, you know, intellectually everything that we could do. So there's no, that's just the right, of course it's the right course. Of course it's the right way. But it's just amazing to me you had all these arguments against equal rights for women. Equal rights for women. And actually, back in, I'll mention this and then that'll be it, but the